Good day, good evening, good night, and welcome to another episode. This is our 171st episode. I checked the numbers, they were actually correct. And in doing so, I realized that the video that I did not release it on YouTube, though we recorded for YouTube, it was stuck on private. So I'm sorry to all the YouTube fans who check it out on YouTube. It's there now. So if you only listen to us on YouTube, you'll get two extra helpings off the podcast in recent days. But it's been on Podbean and iTunes or wherever else steals our podcast and put it on their platform. It's there and working fine, just the same. But anyway, welcome to another exciting episode. And it's sunny here in New York City, so I'm excited about that. No winter blues or spring blues. And we're lost an hour. But time is against us because Janina got mommy duties this afternoon. So before I go any further, let me introduce my co-hostesses with the mostesses. We have Andreen from Solely Tennis Travels.
Hello.
And how are you? You just came back from a trip, right?
Yes, I am. I'm good. I'm good.
And yes, folks, we are wearing masks. You do detect a slight cough in Andreen. So if you hear that, I would suggest you get your mask ready. She is very contagious.
No, actually, as a matter of fact, my doctor says you are no longer contagious. I'm one of those delightful people who apparently had the flu while I was traveling. So that's good news for everyone.
You had a
We're down.
regular flu. You had a regular flu, not the
I
super
had
flu.
regular flu
Okay.
while I was traveling and came home to a fabulous bronchial infection.
Okay.
Which is
So
the tail
when
end
Nice.
of the flu. So the doctor's like, so yes, you've passed through the flu stages, and so now you have a chest infection.
what a bad luck that you didn't realize you had the flu, but it's only when the vestiges is going away then you
I
realize.
know.
Shitty, right?
That should be how every experience of anything bad happens. The vestiges of it are over. Anywho, yeah.
So is your doctor like the one who informs Trump? Because if it is, I wouldn't trust what he's saying. I hope not.
Oh, listen, I don't even trust anything. I'm like getting my own sources of information besides what the tests say.
Okay. Okay.
Are we sure the test was real?
I know, right?
Those are not available. So
I know. It's
and we have Janina from Foreign Ohio. And for once, Janina, Ohio's not in the news. And I don't know whether I need to be scared or whether I
gonna
should
be
really
at
be,
some point.
I need to be full on panic.
Probably panicked.
It's too quiet there. It's too quiet.
Way too
Yeah,
quiet.
exactly. When shit goes south in Jersey, Florida, or Ohio, it's time to head for the hills, folks. It is serious. It
Hmm
is serious. Okay.
It's coming. Don't you worry.
Those three states are like they're really the bellwether of fuckery in the United States of America. I don't say this. This is what the history has shown. So you could be mad if you're from those places, but it is what it is. And there is reels from New York City. I'm here in New York City and the Homosexual Podcast. Well, for once, ladies, tennis isn't so big.
No, it's
For
very small. I have to
I
say,
know.
tennis feels very small in the span of everything that's happened, and it always is. But every now and then, you get reminded of it.
You
Hmm
know what? You know what I think that is? It's because Federer is on sick leave again. So once Federer goes, it's just like, is tennis even relevant? Should we
Okay.
even have tournament? Should we not just cancel the whole shit?
I mean, the men's tournaments for certain. The women's certain tournaments are going along just fine.
They are?
Is it?
Yes, they are. Yes,
I
they
Okay.
hadn't
are.
Tell
noticed.
me, tell me how much women's tennis you watched this week, Andreen.
I watched a lot of highlights. I will say that.
Ah,
I have. I've been catching up on highlights. No, I mean, I was like, listen, I see all the tournaments that happen, the little side ones before Indian Wells, but let's be honest. I'll be real. I'll be real to you about it. This is when I wait for it. I'm like, Indian Wells gets a lot of tennis coverage, and I get to see all the matches that I want to see. And so I usually get pumped for Indian Wells. But yeah, I guess people have been playing other tournaments. How dare they?
Mm.
So, ladies, this is what Andreen is really trying to tell you. You should fly from Melbourne and just wait out for Indian Wells. Do
No,
nothing.
but then how will we get to celebrate Heather Watson winning tournaments? Come on now. This is fantastic.
Well, you wait, Janina, did you see that switch, right? You see that?
Mm-hmm.
You saw that switch, right?
It
Trying
was
to make
shady
us
as
look.
fuck, is what it
It
was.
But
was
you,
good though, right? It was a
but you,
real good, pleasant treat.
but you're trying to make us look like the bad people. You first of all say these little side tournaments, meaning that you're dismissing all this shit. Then you're like, oh well, Heather Watson won, so yeah, we can't be dismissing them completely. Yeah, well, that was really good for her, though. I mean, I have to say that. I mean, like she has
That was
been
a
in,
good set of wins for her, I think.
and I think she went to Monterrey and had a fairly decent tournament. I mean, she lost, I think, her second match, but at least she got that money, she got that trophy, and she got relevant again, and that is always helpful.
Well, I saw that she was considering retiring, and now she's bumped herself up like half 50 points or so, like 50
Yeah,
slots. Like I think in terms of her ranking points. So that's wonderful. This is what it is. One deep win and all is good again. It's like
Turns
it's
your
like
whole
rolling
life
the dice.
around.
You know what I mean?
sure. I mean,
I
I
it's a
this
little
hap-
too much like the lottery, but
this happens in a lot of sports because the other day I was watching biathlon and one French woman, of course it's a French woman, she came like 70 something in the sprint and she was just like, fuck this, I'm going to retire. The next tournament, the next event, she won. So she was just like,
now
hey,
she's like, what do I do?
I'm gonna play forever.
I'm going to keep on keeping on. You know what I mean? Look, win is a big motivational factor. It doesn't matter, there's shit people coming out, getting up in the morning, and just competing and living and seeing my friends. Fuck that shit. Nobody wants to be a
Hmm.
loser. Winning covers a multitude of all sins. That has been a motto on this show, and I have yet to see evidence to the contrary.
No, it's fantastic for her. I think I don't listen, I'm not mad at all of these little things that happen.
So Heather is winning, but Felix is getting to finals and losing. And I
Mhm.
thought for sure, Felix, boo, you got your pigeon in the
I
final.
know. That's like that just shows you. Yeah, actually, yeah, Heather jumped up 20 spots.
Yeah, so
She's now
I think
ranked to 49. Oof, look
so
at
she
that.
I mean, look at that, right? Look at God. She is
Shoot,
it
shoot.
just
Oh
automatically
Lord.
in that's automatically in Paris if there is a tournament and Wimbledon if there is a tournament. That's automatic entry because there's no way she could lose another 50 points because she ain't defending shit
I
for the
know.
Not
rest of
a
the
damn
year.
thing.
Time to add. Look at that.
She ain't got to defend nothing but her purse. That's
Mm.
it. Keep on. Well, that's wonderful. But yeah, Felix got to another finals and, he didn't show up. And I mean, but I
Yeah.
guess it doesn't take long for winning to be a motivational factor for Stefanov because he wasn't winning shit for the year. And then all of a sudden, he showed up in, where was it? Is it somewhere in France? Was it France?
Hmm.
Yeah, he showed up in France and he snatched that title. So, hey. So
I
now
think
he's
it was.
feeling
I think it
himself and all over social media, unfortunately. God, saying the dumbest shit, the dumbest shit.
Well, listen, that just lets you know who he is, He's like, "Hello, I felt myself today, and then I decided to speak about it. And what did I feel? That bodily fluids are a thing to talk about. Yeah,
Oh my
Marseille.
God.
Yeah, Marseille. He won Marseille. That's pretty
Oh,
cool.
that's really good for him. I mean, I'm surprised one of the French boys didn't take it, but
Usually, right? Usually, that's a pretty reliable tournament.
I don't know what's going on. Gasquet, Benoit.
I know.
I
Usually,
ain't
that's
putting Sam
Sanga's back
Murphy.
tournament.
I
That's usually in
uh,
Sanga's back pocket right there.
Did he play?
I think he might have actually not played because I remember because I actually
suffering from sickle cell.
well, you know what? I actually just saw that Sanga's. I mean, there's actually quite a few people that are actually not at Indian Wells, and Sanga is one of them.
Smart move.
Very, very smart, I think, given his whatever particular histories and things like that, health wise. Last
Feel
year it was Kachanov. Oh, you know what? But Tsitsipas he defended. That was nice. He won it in 2019 and 2020.
I
So
love I love the plethora of excuses, which all seem to be the same worded excuse why you won't be showing up in Indian Wells. Girl, an injury I caught somewhere.
I think Simona Halep even did one better and walked around on crutches.
Oh God.
Learning from Rafa, girl. You're learning from Rafa. I love it. I love it.
Listen, you got to do it. If you can't post a picture,
Exactly. It ain't real.
then you got to
It's,
have an
It
image
didn't
of yourself.
happen.
you gotta post for it. So Bianca, it's your move, girl.
she
Andrescu.
already she already withdrew.
I know she did, but we need to see some
Picture
pictures.
time.
I don't need a picture. You know that I like keep it to
I don't see
yourself.
that picture, but I'm just saying it's getting really suspicious now, girl.
No, but you know what? I was like, listen, if you are someone who, I mean, obviously, body wise, if she's fragile body wise, I certainly would make my way over there. What's the point? And if you're not 100%, if you're not 100%, do not make your way to Indian Wells for any reason.
Even if you're not playing the tournament, people. So fans out here, you can get a refund. Take this opportunity.
That's true.
Watch
It is so rare to get refunds at tennis tournaments. I mean,
Watch
Yeah.
this shit on TV. Okay?
Watch it on TV from your home with a mask.
yeah.
Yeah.
In sympathy. In sympathy. No.
So, Andreen, I think so Sabalenka won Doha. I think last time we spoke, Dubai was going on, and did someone win that event? Was it Simona who won that? Had Simona, yes.
Halep won, which was a very respectable, decent win.
Yes.
And then
Proven why she's the former number one player. Just give the girls a little something, Halep. I mean, we can't be mad at that. Give them some reason to at least fear you. You know what I mean? At least the little girls on tour. Not the ones in the top 20 who knows Halep is beatable on any day. Looking at you, Brady.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
That top 50, you know what I mean? And they're like, oh, Simona, oh, first round. We got a shot, people. We got a shot. But Venus is on the losing track again. I mean, I got into a rich discussion on Twitter. I mean, I'm just saying Venus is in her swan song. This is her last day on tour.
Is that clear?
No, he's making it up.
I mean, you're making things up.
It's his hunch.
That's not clear.
She has made no announcements.
But Venus is telling y'all her business anyway.
I mean, that's true, but I'm just saying you can't
You
project
can't
that
be
out
out
there.
here going, she's doing her farewell tour.
I mean, this is
Well,
like the results section. You're blending the results section, which is traditionally facts, with your opinions. So
But
the
I'm
results
just
are
simply
clear.
saying Venus showed up in Acapulco and Monterey.
Mm-hmm.
Places that she don't go other than vacation. Anyway, let me tell y'all something. Venus took those people's money for a vacation because she had Acapulco, and what was Venus doing the night before her match? Drinking and dancing. Girl, we don't do that out here. And you know what gets me upset? It's the faithful. There are two sets of Venus fans, okay? There are the blind faithful. Venus is gonna win the French Open. Venus is gonna win Wimbledon. They believe that's gonna happen still. Right? And then there are the people, the practical, the diehard who's been on this bandwagon since they were on Gillette World Sports Special. That's how diehard fan I am. Okay? I know Venus Ebony Star Williams. That girl, we got gifts in 2017. And then Mugger Roots had decided, fuck y'all and y'all feelings. And bagel that girl, in the second sense, put in the coffin in any hopes of Venus having a dance. Serena wouldn't even give her the encouragement to even get to a finals and get one of those free trophies she'd be giving out. Serena not even doing that. So I really think this is Venus' last year on tour. She's out here branching out into media. I see her trying to do some. She was doing that blog posting on YouTube for a little bit. I see she dropped that shit because she's gonna have to answer some tough questions. I see her doing some TV spots. I think she switched some job for a day with one of those morning news talk show host kind of thingy, whatever. They're trying to pass themselves off as serious news, but they're trying to be like, I don't know, chat with Jen and Peter, whatever that nonsense is. And I don't see her doing tennis. I've seen Venus doing everything but being on a tennis court.
Except when she's on a tennis court and just so happens to be losing. But I just saw that she did she I think in the Indian Wells draw she drew her sister again.
She did?
Is that what it is?
In what round?
I mean,
or just quarter or what?
I think this is like the BNP Paribas open draw came out. So
wait, but doesn't Serena have a bye?
I mean, this is one of those wonderful things that we should be talking about in this episode. It's the draw, right? The draw for Indian Wells. But we could do a round of results while I pull up the draw. We can have a quick chat.
So yeah, so Venus is, she's out there, and she's losing, and I'm cool with that. I mean, I'm mad, but I'm cool with that because Venus is giving me too much for me to be out here being petty mad over her losing. Because I always say
you might be a little petty mad.
Because I'm just simply saying, if Venus not interested in winning, why should I care that she's losing?
I mean, I'm sure Venus is interested, but she's so. While you are worrying and thinking about Venus, why don't we talk about the Heather Watson's opponent in that final in Mexico? She seems to have been on a wonderful run.
Fernandez?
Yes, the Canadian
I don't know
player.
her.
I know you don't know her. What do you like about her game?
Why are you assuming we watched?
You cannot use the excuse of it being the wrong coast. It was perfectly within your coast to catch that tournament.
I mean, your coast.
True.
Yeah.
I did not though. I didn't see one point.
I don't speak Spanish, so it was.
I was lovely.
We're horrible. Oh my god.
No, I did watch the highlights of the kids because I mean, Acapulco was not gonna be fun. Once Rafa showed up, I was like, I don't care.
But Rafa's not on the women's side, so
I know that, but the tournament is all about him.
I mean, online it is. But I think the women had a really good tournament.
But the other thing is that this tournament is kind of funky because it starts so late. I think you mentioned when you were there because of the heat, they start matches at 6 o'clock.
Yeah, it's an afternoon tournament.
It's an afternoon tournament, and they have really matches at 12, like at 11 o'clock or something like that. So, my ass is in bed by that time, well before that time. So, I do miss a lot, but I did see the highlight. Heather played really well within herself. I kept expecting. To be honest with you, at first I thought they weren't talking about the real Heather Watson. Just like they made a mistake here. Because I hadn't heard anything from her. But the problem is that it's never fitness. I just think she needed a better coach. So I hopefully that's the motivation would definitely help her to get some coach and they can get some better strategies because she has always been a fit player. Heather Watson's fitness is not the problem. Heather Watson's tennis, execution thereof within these matches and on big points has always been the problem. And I would really love to see her be, do well. Girl, get in there for the Olympics because, I mean, if Monica Puig got one, why can't you? And they got two, so.
No, I think I don't think the draw's out yet. So that's good news. But I guess it was people panicking. I was still trying to adjust to the news cycle. People were, I guess, just panicking at the idea that they might face each other. That's really silly.
At this point, people panicking about that? What?
I don't know.
What are people afraid of? Honestly, God, I really want to know what people are afraid of when Venus and Serena face each other because we have seen it enough time to know exactly how the story is going to work out.
Well, it didn't work out the same last time. Venus beat her. Remember?
Serena just came back from pregnancy, wasn't that?
Yeah, exactly. That doesn't mean anything. But also, congratulations to Sofia Kenin. She won a title. Look at her now. She won the title in Lyon. So now we can stop worrying about the Australian Open champion. She's gonna be fine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. She was on a 3-match losing streak, and everybody was wondering. I think even she herself was, because she's like, I just need to start playing better. She was really berating herself, but look at her. She got herself into a final and has won it. So good for her. Maybe
I'll see on a conflicts box or something in the supermarket. Maybe no.
Do they still do that? Oh yeah, they do still do Wheatie boxes. Yeah.
Oh, she ain't Wheaties worthy. She's cornflakes. Get out of here.
Listen. I think you have to get over whatever those worthy comments are. You win a slam, you're worthy.
I don't know about that because
Hmm.
and then everybody who want to slam, I want to see in a conflicts box. I would not buy that conflict set, whether it's my favor on the box, but I'm just simply saying you can't be just creeping up on people in the supermarket with certain mugs. Just
Well,
not.
when you buy that box is going to turn like yellow. This is the treat of that box. It's like you're gonna have it preserved for years, and that box,
Oh, because it's
you don't
acid
have to use
paper.
it. You don't have to eat it. You don't. It's just to watch the box turn color throughout the year.
Oh, when people get the munchies, because cereal is the kind of thing when you're hungry and nothing is available, it is the thing that you go to. You can't avoid cereal. You might not eat it with milk, but when you're hungry and you got the munchies and you're like smoking weed, I do not partake in such activities, but I'm just simply saying what I had heard was that you would eat the cereal. But maybe Wheaties is not the kind of cereal you want to eat when you're on the munchies. But hey, cornflakes maybe.
Well,
So
I
so
mean, I
this
think in the end, everyone has won some interesting tournaments, but it's always about when everybody gets to the big event. And I think Indian
Mhm.
Wells is one of the big ones. So we'll get to really see where
yeah.
people are, right?
And it has proven to be the thing on the women's side at least. You win Indian Wells, apparently you're almost guaranteed to win the US Open. It kind
Oh,
of
Oh my
correlates with each other.
that would be interesting. I
Because
don't know.
if I'm not mistaken, it happened for Panetta. It happened for what's her name? Um, um
Kerber.
Osaka.
Yeah.
And it
Oh,
happened
that's
for
true.
Andrescu.
Oh,
So
that's true.
apparently winning
Oh my goodness.
it's a thing.
No, it's
That's
not a thing.
Well, it could be interesting. Well, because usually, right, it's like, oh yeah, then it's like, can you do the sunshine double? And then can you like take that result into, but let's be honest, none of those things are going to be the same equation because of COVID-19. We,
Well, you want to talk about science though.
I'm not,
In a
I mean,
place like in
I mean,
America
like,
that
I think
doesn't
it is,
believe in science.
listen, we can talk about the results, but the tour is going to be impacted tremendously by this virus.
And if
And
it's
so,
not, they're all
Well,
fucking fools.
tennis seemed to be. I mean, I'm literally telling you, I just watched 4 days of biathlon, and there was no one in the stands. It's like no one, right?
well, aside
And
from that, though,
this is playing in, and a lot of sports have taken this step. Tennis
yep.
seems to be avoiding this sort of a thing. Tennis is at least tennis in America. I'm not showing how it's operating outside. I mean, if it were an indoor tournament, I think perhaps you can control the atmosphere a lot better. You can do, I
I
love
think
how a
with
lot
the
of
I
places are
think with
saying,
The Davis Cup that happened this weekend, I think many of them were not entirely full, right? There were some
One
I
people
match
with
was
the
played without spectators, I
I know
saw.
the
yeah.
Japanese double, the Japanese rubber was played without tie was played without audience. I'm almost sure of that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wherever Japan was,
I
I'm
mean,
not.
it's such a strange thing. I think I saw, I think Janina, you're a big basketball player, watcher, and I saw that LeBron was like he's not playing unless there are fans there. And I've just been thinking about that, like the idea that like we've got to stay with the schedule enough that we have to get through this so it doesn't actually matter if fans are there. Because I noticed that's happening with soccer as well.
Well, I think that people, athletes included, clearly at some level forget at times that this is their job. And, yes, it's there to entertain people, but at the bare minimum, it's your job. And you should probably, you know, you kind of do what's needed of you. And if that means you're going to go play and nobody's there to watch, it's still your job.
No, I mean I
So
get
it'll
it,
be
but it is
interesting to see which athletes are like, yeah, no. I mean, because especially I think for a sport like basketball, where the crowd is such a huge piece of it, um, you know, I can't, I mean, in soccer too, I can't even imagine what that must feel like for the athlete. It's probably like a really boring practice session.
that's
Like they
what I'm trying
feed
to
off
figure
of
it
that
out.
energy. It's got to be so weird.
But I think, well, then don't, because here's the thing. I think why it's happening is because these places, these things, events all have lucrative television contracts.
Yeah, sure.
So it's
The
why they
television audience is fine. Yep.
it's exists there. So to
But to say
me,
that you're not going to play if there are no fans
that's just stupid. For me, that's
is
stupid and
I don't know.
misguided.
stupid,
I don't know if it's
kind
stupid. I just
of.
think he
But
just
it is part
reacted.
of
I'm
the
sure he's gonna
sport.
play. I'm sure he's gonna play. But I'm just like he reacted like, wow, it just doesn't like. But I think it's something to really think about. The idea of like, like in the. I mean, it's like basically performing. If you're a performer, it's like
Which
performing.
athletes are
But
performers, no?
but we have
I
done
mean,
this.
you are, but
Yeah.
that's not been our experience of it. I mean, we've seen
Mm-hmm.
people live tape a show without an
Sure.
audience, right? And so, in
But
some sense, that's exactly what you have. Is like, hey, we're
Yep.
going to have a show, but we're not going to have an audience, but we have an audience at home.
Yeah, it's
but
really
we have
weird.
but we have done these sort of things before. Maybe not on such a large scale, but there have been sporting event that has been staged without an audience for security reasons.
Yeah,
Um,
and it's really, really weird.
and this is also like a security issue as well. So to
Well, it
me,
is.
but to me, it's funny how capitalism is so such a beast that we're gonna try to work around these things, right? And a
Well,
non-essential sporting event must go on in some capacity, just
I
so
don't want
that
to dig too
profits.
far into the politics of it all, but I think we really I would I'm very curious to see how tennis plays out outside of America because in America we don't have a current government that seems to be taking this seriously. I mean, it's just it's unreal. You've got a president saying on national TV that there's nothing to worry about. We don't have the virus here and it's not coming here. Carry on. And then it's here and he's saying the president of the United States is saying if you need to be tested, you will be tested. Anybody that wants to get tested will be tested. We have tons of tests. The tests are beautiful. I don't know what a beautiful test looks like, but apparently we have beautiful tests. But you have the vice president who is in charge of this. He is the go-to person speaking to the media saying we don't have enough tests right now. So we're getting a very mixed message, and I see certain organizations taking precautions on their own, but whereas in other countries where the government is saying we're shutting shit down, the United States isn't doing that. Indian Wells is a huge tournament, huge. And, they're like, oh, the ball kids will wear gloves and not carry player towels, which is gross, anyways. But you've got the
What did you think of
biggest,
that statement? Actually, what did you think about the
That
I mean,
content of it?
first of all,
it's
that
it's something that we've been calling for a long time, first of all.
Hmm.
Second, the biggest issue that we know about with this virus is that it lays dormant for a lot longer than most viruses that we know how they behave. And the worst thing you can do is put a large amount of people in one
and
place.
it lays dormant in the air,
Yes,
not just
it
on
can lay
surfaces.
on a surface. Well, I don't know how true that is. There's been conflicting information about whether or not it's hanging out in the air.
Yeah, the
It,
air. It's not airborne.
it's
But it
not
is surface.
airborne,
It is surface.
but it can survive on surfaces for many, many, many hours, like 9, 10 hours.
Yeah.
So, it's just
But
the
it's but
last thing we should be doing is gathering in places in these types of numbers right now when
but I have a question because this is the thing I found rather unusual because and it goes back to something relevant in specific in tennis because one of the things Sasha Zverev always says it just like I don't know why people keep going for the towel and I can go for it myself. I don't need someone to do it. He's always made a point about that. He just thought it was kind of odd. And to me, it doesn't matter if the ball kids are wearing gloves, they're still handling the towel, right? Whether or not they're touching because the glove has contact with the virus. You know what I mean? So they can still touch themselves with the glove. The glove isn't like some magical
th-
barrier that it's
it's
the
not a magical
virus
barrier.
dies
This
on
is
it.
this is completely for optics, because even if the ball
Yeah.
kids, because let's think about this in real terms. Okay, the ball kids aren't going to handle the player's towel, which eliminates direct transmission from the player, should they be infected, to the towel to the ball kid, right? However,
No, they said
the
that
ball kids,
the ball kids will not be touching or moving the
correct,
tennis
but
towel.
let's follow this, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that eliminates one piece.
Yep.
But you have the player touching the towel, who in turn will touch the balls,
Mm-hmm.
which the ball kids will handle. You know what it takes? It takes one itch on their face with a glove on that has the virus on it, and boom, they've got it. The gloves do nothing, like just like you're saying, it doesn't do anything. It eliminates one piece of the puzzle, but the puzzle is way too big to be solved by kids wearing gloves.
And also, you're moving people from all over the world to one area. You're concentrating players. They have not been quarantined. I mean,
But I think the tournament is trying to say we aren't doing this and it's going to eliminate a transmission, and it's not. It's not even a good band-aid.
Yeah, I mean,
because
I think if you think about the logistics of how this transmission, or as Janina said, what we know of the transmission, the precautions that are being added are useful as a kind of security measure in your own mind. But logistically, it's a little bit worrying, because really the question is like how many people are going to be having contact with everything that's happening in the state on the stage of play, and then having all sorts of touching going on with their face, because even between the players, right, between
but
the
we
players. Sorry,
Does
go ahead, Rick.
Rafa stop his nose and face touching between points now? Because you
stop
know
digging in
what?
his ass.
No,
Well,
I'm serious. I
besides
mean,
that,
it's
but really
we
it's
we
about the
joke
face.
about it,
Yeah.
but this is exactly what happens. So maybe you've got, and here's another thing to consider. Kids aren't getting very sick, but that doesn't mean they're not carriers,
They're
right?
carriers for sure. Yeah.
So you've got a sick ball kid that doesn't even know they're sick. Are they going to say, "Mom, Dad, I don't feel good because so I better miss being a ball kid at Indian Wells or the US Open or wherever"? They're not probably going to do that, and they're not feeling very sick, but again, they're still carriers. So they roll a ball to someone, and then, like Rafa, who has a ritual between every single point where he touches his face. Boom. Boom. That's it. That's all it takes.
But
That's
you see,
it.
I
And
think
we're ignoring this.
we're looking at one thing here though. We're just looking at
It's a huge
players.
piece of tennis.
But no. But we're looking at just the player and the ball kid play interaction. What you
No, we're
do
not.
have,
I'm just
wait,
saying
wait,
this is where it
Wait.
starts.
Yeah, but let's.
but
What's your piece, real?
but we forget that the people in the crowd, there is a whole bunch of people who are next to each other, interact with each other. We have been to tennis tournament. We know how dirty those facilities are,
Hmm.
particularly when you have a whole bunch of people all over the place. You know, you have food handlers there. They're gonna wash their hands as if they weren't doing that before. We know how these things happen. It's stadium food. It's never the healthiest. It's never the cleanest, and all these people are in this small space with surfaces that cannot be logistically clean every minute
Hmm.
because there is always a rotation, right?
Right.
God, you know those bathrooms are filthy. So it's not just the players because I think players might relatively be able to take care of themselves. They're relatively healthy people, but you do have a whole bunch of people in varying age group from all over the world again coming in, and that's the other thing too. People from all over the world are coming in and they have not been quarantined, and they might become because you are the incubation period is what 2 weeks, I think. So you feel relatively fine, but apparently you can still spread this all over the place. So that doesn't seem. I don't. They
And
haven't
also,
given any.
you haven't. And the question is, I mean, one of the things, if you go to the CDC website, they talk about who should be quarantined, right? And so, if you are coming from, what is it? They have like stage one and stage two countries.
Hmm.
These are the countries that I mean, Italy is one of the countries. China is one of the countries. I mean, where were the players just
Hmm.
recently? Where, were the Italian players not in Italy? Like these are just kind of like these questions that no one's really asking. And so it's like, and where are fans coming from? The
Yeah.
other part of it that's really curious for me, and listen, we're actually just asking these questions, like how we think through them. We're not trying to generate panic. But the other piece is Indian Wells is a fairly older population tournament. It's Palm Springs. This is a retiree community. So this is actually one of the more vulnerable communities in terms of age and in terms of underlying potential comorbidity issues. So it's like, this is something that I hope that people are going to be really mindful of. The statement on the website is a start, but I also think that they have to actually communicate to fans, even on the loudspeakers, how they should be behaving at the tournament. Like, besides the hand sanitizers, it's also you're moving. Like, just think about that. You're moving between matches to different seats that were sat on by other people and touched and sweated on and all kinds of things. And then you've got to make sure that you're super conscious about what you're doing with your hands as you move them to different parts of your body.
And you have to hold on to these hands because they're hand railings. The stadiums are high. You're gonna be putting your hands to your face to eat. You're gonna be touching
just a lot. There's just a lot of logistical things that
we don't typically think about.
That you just don't think about. That I think we have to be making sure that the speakers are announcing as you're at the tournament. Like, as you move from stadium to stadium and you're doing things, you need to be like watching often, which means the lines are going to be very long. I mean, I just think it's like, it's one of those things that I don't know if people really kind of pulled back and thought through.
Well, isn't Indian Wells the second biggest stadium in the country?
It's
the world.
It's one of the bigger.
It's next to Arthur Ashe, right?
Yeah, it's one, not next to, but in the but like, yeah,
size
wise, right? In terms of even just attendee wise, right? It's up there with the slam numbers. It's the fifth.
Yeah. So you have all of that to consider, but they're like, we have 250 more hand sanitizing stations on the grounds. Really?
But hopefully this is the correct hand sanitizer, right? And this
I'm
is
sure it is. I honestly don't doubt that, but that's not enough.
But here's
done what they can.
Here's something to add to that thing. Then you're gonna have all these people who may potentially be infected and move them from California to Florida, another retiree place. And Indian Wells, if I'm not mistaken, is traditionally where there's always something dodgy in the air. Food poisoning, always some kind of shit going on in Indian Wells. Illness.
I don't know. I don't want to listen. In the same combination of us talking about this, it's not that all of it, but one of the things that has happened is we've seen a few times that viruses or bacteria, whatever it is, will pass through that tournament and impact players quite quickly. So that by the time it comes around for them to go to Miami, either they're leaving very early from Indian Wells because they're sick, and then they're leaving to having to go to Miami. But yeah, I mean, it's not like I don't want to make it seem like it's a what do you call it, like a myth. There have been outbreaks of various things throughout the years that have, like, really touched the player population.
But But this is what I'm saying. To me, a lot of this thing that they're saying just look like what they're talking about.
Who are saying
that Indian Wells has put out hasn't really, has been rather. I don't know. It's been sort of like, I don't think this is serious. They're fully considering the situation. They just seem to me, I get the impression they're just doing barely enough so that they could continue and probably waylay the affairs of some people or most people, so they can still get the tournament up and running and make that money. This is
well, I mean, obviously, listen, everyone is concerned about this. I don't know, we all may be assigned to things. I've had lots of things that have been canceled, and it's problematic for people. I mean, nonprofits have had to cancel conferences, and that's for nonprofits. That's a lot of money that they've put out, because there's a lot of money you put out and you can't get that money back. There's not going to be a refund process. So I'm really sensitive to the fact that it is a big deal to cancel events. And so, but I think part of the challenge here is that we know that there's been inconsistent messaging just overall for us as geniuses. Right. And so the inconsistent messages from the very top lets you put out a statement that is not particularly compelling because there is such confusion. But if you do a little bit of a deeper dive and you go to the CDC website and you read what they say about how transmission happens, you know that this statement is not enough. It's but for someone who maybe is just casually listening and hearing the constant application of this virus as like the flu, which makes it very dismissive to people, which people forget. Even if it is like the flu, we have a flu vaccine. And so
And
it
the
doesn't
flu is very dangerous, even still.
even still, but we have a vaccine for the flu. So and like it runs through the population. It does what it does, but we understand more about the flu than we understand this virus. So this virus is an unknown entity where they're learning as much as they can. But even given the things that we know, I just think fan behavior has to be completely transformed in order to enjoy this event safely.
Well, and I'm interested to see like who's going to bitch about the fact that you can't get near your player anymore, because that's
I mean, I
happening as
hope people are
well.
sensitive to that. I
I
mean,
would
I think
hope so,
because I
but
think
I'm
players are now not going to be they're limiting it.
well, they're
They're
not
not going to be
doing
able to
it.
give.
But
Yeah,
I
you
They're
can't
not
give them
doing
things.
public sessions with players,
Yes, and you can't
things
give them
that
things. Yeah,
yeah,
they
I
take things
I
from you. Like, so please hold your big gifts at
and
home, and
some
don't be upset that a player doesn't want your gift,
or
because you
your
should
and
give
you're
it.
towel
not going to get that
or
autograph or that
sign your
selfie.
T-shirt or your book. But something, I know one sport biathlon canceled press conferences, so they to change the whole atmosphere as to how it's going to be. But I wonder if tennis is thinking about, because one of the things I'm worried about is that with COVID-19, it's the one of the praise is that we know so little about the illness, right? This is not a situation where we know a lot about it, and therefore these precautions are best practices. Basically, well,
Yeah,
are
it's
like
Well,
as
good
best
measures.
as you know right now,
Well,
right?
it's as best as you know
I
right
have
now.
a I
So,
I
because
really feel like when we get out of America, so what we're going to do, it's going to be Indian Wells, Miami, and then what's the next big tournament after that? We're going to go to Europe, right? And
right,
Yeah,
start
and that
clay.
that all is going to change because
I
Europe's
think
already
I think we're
moving
going to see
differently.
some very different tournaments once the players get out of America. I really do, because the rest of the world is responding in a completely different way than America. I mean, Italy has 16 million people quarantined right now. 16 million in one section of the country.
oh,
So
and
I think we're
I
going to
just
see
wanna
something very, very different. Very different. I actually just
um
spoke with someone living in Italy today, and shit is shut down.
Oh, I
Even
mean, it's necessarily going to be different because
so
first of all, I mean, the biggest piece of the tournament is picking up. I mean, we are going to have to assume that May is a non-starter, right? Whatever Italy's trying to do, they're not going to repair that in 2 months. So
no.
we have the Italian Open is May, is at the start of May. So that's a journey. So you have to think about all of the tournaments in April, right? The April tournaments are Monte Carlo. I mean, realistically, how does that?
that's
And then Madrid. I
Madrid.
mean, so, and we already see some of the changes that are happening in Spain. So
Hmm.
my sense of that is that that's where we're going to have to see some real shift in thinking about how we
Hmm.
execute these tennis tournaments. Because I mean, I would assume you're going to move the Italian Open
Well,
someplace,
it has
right?
to be. I suspect if we don't have a handle on this, because Italy is right now the fastest growing rate of infection, and
Right.
that might be because they are testing, which isn't
Yes.
happening in the United States of America. So we might have a
There's
dormant
some testing. Yeah.
population. There might some testing. Well, the scale at which America is testing is ridiculously low. It's
It's very
almost
low.
It's embarrassing.
Yes.
But my friend from Italy, she lives in the Lombardy region. She just sent me this morning. She says the flow of people in public places such as supermarkets will now be monitored.
Yep.
She just came back from the supermarket. The entire region of Lombardy is now on lockdown, so no one can leave or enter. She
Yep.
mentioned she buy herself a bottle of French Pinot Noir, but that's irrelevant. The lockdown will be until April 2nd, so will
Yeah.
come into effect tomorrow. Compared to
Yeah.
last time, people seem more at ease. Saw only about two, maximum three persons in the supermarket wearing masks. The supermarket now provide gloves, plastic gloves at the entrance for use. And now the cashier allows the buyer to completely clear their groceries from the counter before she starts to cash another person's groceries. and tables at bars and restaurants are completely separated at a distance from each other. The
Yeah.
shelves are not completely emptied. Yeah, Americans are out here buying toilet paper. I don't know why, but
I mean, I
America.
think it's people's perceptions of what they're experiencing. I don't understand why people always bulk up on those things, but whatever it is, I'm like, what are you going to do there? I mean, actually, that's actually one of the things you actually may have some control over is like you could wash yourself if things go badly.
Yeah, and it
Like
hasn't been seemed to be able to be giving people debilitating diarrhea. I mean,
I
no,
mean, why? Actually, it's because it's one of the symptoms listed. That's one of the reasons
Mhm.
it
why
is.
diarrhea is
Well, and I
listed.
think that people are afraid about production and not being able to get things.
Yeah.
Well, that's how it affecting the economy, and
But I mean, even the mindfulness about that, people. Why would if you hoard, I don't have. And guess what? I'm still going to go out in public and you probably will too. So what will it be like if I don't have those toilet papers to clean myself up? Like can we think a little bit? I mean, this is one of those things where again it's like can
a
we just
proper government would be
a
providing
good
information.
recommendation would be like, I'm sorry, ma'am, or at least capitalism would be like, guess what? Your neighbor needs to buy that too. So we're limiting how many you can buy. And of course, people will rage and go whatever. But I think maybe once people calm down, they'll realize that it's important that everyone gets hand sanitizer.
No, I don't think so. People, listen,
People
people
would
are
buy it and
greedy.
selling it.
They are out for themselves. I was behind a woman in a store. I can't even believe I'm going to say this on air, but I am. There was a woman in front of me at a store and she had 10 hand sanitizers. And I'm thinking to myself, why do you need 10? You don't need 10. I hope to God she's going to share them with someone or something. I'm like, you don't need 10. And she was adamant about getting her 10 and they had better be on sale. And she was in there for 45 minutes, I heard her say, to make sure that she was getting them for the price that she thought she should be getting them. And I'm like, okay, whatever, and I'm waiting and I'm trying to be patient and I'm still thinking, you don't need fucking 10 hand sanitizers. Why did I get home and Jason had done the same thing?
And then you know what? I'm gonna tell Jason, you know what? Jason needs to ship me one because guess what? We can't find any. I mean, these are the kinds of things that, it's like one of those moments when you realize we're so not used to sharing. And
Yeah,
we just know that if our money can allow us to access it, we deserve it.
I
And so
yeah.
get it. Yeah.
we never really think about I mean, but the logistics of it is just like, lady, if you have all the hand sanitizers, who's gonna hand sanitize and hold your food? Like,
Yeah.
Exactly. And here's the other thing too. What we do know is that excessive use of hand sanitizers do it give you that mental
Yeah.
psyche, like confidence. It's actually cause you to get ill because you are killing bacteria that should be on your hand and leaving your hands exposed
And
to
also,
picking
this
up.
is a virus.
Exactly.
It's not
Let me
affecting.
Washing
tell you
your
guys,
hands are
my
better.
hands
The
are
soap is
chapped right now. They are chapped from the
hold on.
amount of hand sanitizer and washing that I've been doing. But I mean, I work in healthcare, so I'm trying to be extra careful.
Yeah.
But my
But I
hands
mean,
are jacked up from that
nonetheless,
shit.
bringing
I
it back
more go for soap and water.
nonetheless, bringing it back to the tennis and for someone who goes to live tennis, I just think for just really as fans of the sport, think about how fan behavior at a tournament and take a look at that statement from the tennis tournament and ask yourself if you think that is enough. And ask
Probably just stay home.
And a
and
lot of these, and
and
oh
be thoughtful
yeah,
about, and be thoughtful about the analysis and have your and let's have spokespersons ask the questions. The spokespeople are the tennis players. Novak Djokovic, you're the number one player. Ashley Barty, you're the number one player. It's not just about your own safety, it's also about fan safety. Are these smart things? But then again, I'm thinking to myself, didn't they just have a massive cricket tournament with thousands of people sitting in the stands in Australia? So I mean, like, do they like I saw that went on and I was like, that's beautiful. But I was like, wow, they
and
brought a crowd
then
of people together.
yeah, and young people go home to the elderly people, and then boom, we got problems. Like,
Hmm.
I mean, part of it is that we are trying to part of it is supposed to be containment in the US, not because everyone's going to get sick, but because we want to decrease the number of people who get sick and then have to access a healthcare system that is already loaded down. That seems to be the through line here. And so having massive events where a bunch of people gather and are basically going to potentially pass around this disease that a lot of people don't really know about and sort of are not taking quite seriously yet, because really as much as I ignore, I have to say, what non-scientists say, I know that most people don't, right? They are really
Right.
still listening to the leader of the country. And
Poor
he,
things.
for the most part, people have said that he said erroneous things all week. So that means that that's a whole generation of people for whom the president's words mean things. They are out there with false information and they're operating under those assumptions. And so that's a very scary
And
thing.
operating under these assumptions boldly and with confidence.
Yes,
That's
Hmm.
part of
because
the problem. They're not humble. They're not
yeah.
humble in their appreciation of this man. They're going to do quite the opposite of what you should be doing. So you have that issue also. So, I mean, and America doesn't have a healthcare system capable of handling any kind of crisis, which Italy and China has shown itself being able to handle.
Or, I mean, but barely. I mean, barely. You know what I mean? I don't think Italy's handling it. I think Italy's trying to handle it. But I mean, I think no country's really sort of on top of this.
But they
But
have
they at least have a process and a plan in place
right
that's I guess nationwide,
and
right? I think
consistent.
at this point in time, what we've discovered is that we're doing it state by state, and probably at the end of the day, it's going to be city by city.
Well, I'll tell
So
you what, Ohio doesn't have any confirmed cases. You know why? Because we're not testing. Why are we not testing? Because we don't have tests.
yeah.
So ultimately, that's the problem. I mean, the numbers here are going to skyrocket when testing is readily available. It's going to go through the fucking roof.
Which is okay, which is what the
Well, it's
scientists
going to
and the
cause a
doctors
mass
have said.
panic.
It's a panic, but that's what the doctors have said, right? You don't know until you get tested. Until you get tested, you can live in a land of not knowing. But
Yep.
we will start to see the numbers, and I think so. Just containment is important, and so people for who are going to the tournament, be very careful. Try to practice as much of the safety tips that people have said, but it's really counter to how we to how we actually move around tournaments.
Keep your
We're
asses
touching
at
things
home.
all the time. Just be really careful. If you're not, and if you have any underlying illness, I really think it's not a good idea to put yourself in that
And
situation.
you know that tournament is gonna not let you bring your own food, so you gotta touch whatever food is out there.
Yeah, I
That
mean
is
maybe this time around they'll lighten that up a little bit and they used to be able to take in little things, but you have to be careful. But you know what? Let me tell you something. Indian Wells for the first a refund at a tennis tournament is a thing of beauty. So if you have any nerves about it and you're worried, guess what? It's on TV. The TV rights have been sold. Make yourself comfortable and hit that refund button if you're uncertain. Fine if you want to go do it, but I'm just saying be very careful. And the other big thing that's happened, just to be sensitive of time, is we had a retirement between our last taping. Maria Sharapova announced, really, actually, I think basically just via social media, right? Just
no, she did
via
a Vanity
She
Fair
did a
something.
magazine article.
Yeah,
yeah, and
a
then yeah,
stage
but
resolved.
yeah, it was that, right? I mean, but not all of us are going to buy that Vanity Fair. So it was essentially social media, right? And then the Vanity Fair piece came out. Um, what say you all about Maria Sharapova's? I mean, I know people will probably have very long, fascinating discussions about her impact on the sport. What do you all think about the retirement of Maria Sharapova?
My initial reaction was it's about fucking time. And the
Mm-hmm.
reason that I say that is because she hasn't done shit since she came back from her doping ban, period. She has not been able to perform at the level that she did while she was doping. She probably should have left then. I can understand and appreciate wanting to, end your career on your own terms. That's about all I can do. But the fact of the matter is, she was shit when she wasn't when she wasn't able to take her drug anymore. And I don't care how many people want to tell me, oh, she wasn't using it in a performance enhancing way. Um, I will refer you back to the podcast that we did. We read every single document thoroughly, every single one. That woman was taking extra doses before an extra match for extra help. And that, my friend, is performance enhancing intentions, period. I don't care. I don't care that she's gone. I'm not gonna miss her. Um, I listen. I was the person here, and I still am the person here that says when you get caught doping, you ought to be banned for fucking life. Don't cheat. period. You're an athlete that gets paid millions of dollars to play a goddamn game, and you're cheating. And she cheated. And if you're still unsure as to whether or not she cheated, go listen to the podcast that we already broke everything down for you about, every single bit, all of the rules, everything she did, the testimonies, all of it. We've already done it, and she's a fucking cheater, and I'm glad she's gone.
Hmm. Well, I'm just gonna say hello. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna say the thing that just popped into my mind right now is Venus Williams,
Mm-hmm.
because Venus Ebony Star Williams was on the tour before Maria Sharapova, and she had Sjogren's syndrome. She has it, and she has kept plowing, take the L's, got the wins when she can, and she's still out here, nearly 40, clicking a ball. So when people get mad, Venus is losing. For me, Venus is still winning. So because people like Maria Sharapova, who has been treating and doping, has come and gone, and they can't live with the real legacy. But I would say the thing about Maria Sharapova, she sort of encapsulates, I think, a lot of things that is wrong with the world in how a news story, how a narrative can be created, and this narrative goes without the facts. And she sort of encapsulated that for a very long time, particularly since the doping.
Mm-hmm.
Because of who she is, she encapsulates white women mediocrity. She encapsulates white women feminism. She encapsulates, I guess, all of those type of theories and issues surrounding those issues of black versus white type of situation, because Maria Sharapova was given the benefit of the doubt constantly when there was no doubt that she was
Yep.
doped. Because it's one of those things where there were undisputed facts surrounding that situation. And it's one thing if you wanted to come back and say all is forgiven, but Maria was never allowed to be humbled. She never humbled herself and accepted any real responsibility for doping. Because even though she said that the press conference and the dirty carpet, whatever the case may be, even though she said that one thing there, every single thing she said thereafter and every single action that she took showed no contrition, no acceptance of the responsibility. I know people loved her because they brought seats to the arena and all this sort of thing. But a lot of people who were coming to the arena to see Maria Sharapova, they came with something extra. They were there to see Maria Sharapova because they disliked someone else. It was never Maria Sharapova didn't bring any sort of lasting legacy to the sport.
Are you sure
So
about that? Is that a
I,
claim that you're comfortable making
I
for
am
the
a
people who are legitimately call themselves Sharapova fans?
yes, I can come to, because if you ask them to show you the facts, because she has been doping for 10 years. I mean, the fact that she retired, and I mean everything else. So that I heard someone say, I love Maria Sharapova because she had that fiery determination and that that consistency and that stamina. I said, like, that was Meldonium. That is precisely what Meldonium was doing,
No, I
and
mean,
that's
let me
why.
ask you. I think we're one of the few. We're one of the few podcasts I think that place a real strong premium on her doping. Like I think we really put it as we put it within the context of her results, and we really take it seriously that she was taking this substance, and that she performed substantially worse after her return without having the substance. Most people don't think it figured too much into her results.
Well, that's because they don't want to look at the facts. They didn't want to dig through the hundreds of pages that we did. They didn't want to put in the work. We talk about how lazy people are all the time. They were lazy. They didn't, and if they did do the work and they did learn about it, they didn't have the balls to speak about it publicly. So
Because
you can't talk about things that are going to, be looked down upon because you're saying something negative, even though it be true about one of the biggest stars in your sport that you cover. I mean, there are so many things that go around this that we didn't play into, and we still don't.
Well, one of the things that I loved, one of the interesting things whenever you hear any of those people speak, particularly the journalists and whatever, they never quoted facts. They quoted feelings. There was always an obfuscating of the facts and everything around it. No one was very clear. There was absolutely no way. There was no way you could have read. any of the stages, even her initial excuses. At no point could you have given Maria Sharapova the benefit of the doubt that she had mistakenly taking a substance. Because even when she was caught dead right in center, and the people said not only did she have meldonium in her system, she had so much in her system. It was very clear that she took it the day before the match, or on the day of the match. That they tried to obfuscate, like she didn't read the email and whatever the case may be. So to me, there was a lot. When I say that the legacy that Maria Sharapova didn't bring much to the legacy of this sport, it isn't lightly. I mean, she brought people there, people who loved her because she fit that type, right? She's blonde, she's white, and she can be that anti-Serena. We know how people pick up anyone who seemed to be against Serena, right? When you could degrade, when you could say throw shit at Serena to say she hasn't done anything for the, you can always pull up a Maria Sharapova archetype. But when you look at Maria Sharapova results when she was on Meldonium, she beat Serena 2004 Wimbledon. That was one thing. But her problem immediately started in 2005, basically. That's when shit was really happening because she figured out then, one, she doesn't really have that great of a game to even withstand. She has that tenacity, that stamina, which we could attribute to meldonium. But the result, she won another major in 2006, won another in 2008. And then when she went that full upswing, when she started taking meldonium at a very consistent and long rate from 2012, that's when you start to see her dominating at the French. That's when that's when she really, the legacy was came. That's where she got major 4-5 at the French Open, her traditionally worst place to play tennis ever. She all of a sudden became the best clay court player on tour consistently for years. She almost became like a Justine Enarden, who was a clay court specialist. You almost could say Maria Sharapova became a clay court specialist in 2012 up to 2015. So to me, what did she bring to this sport? Can someone legitimately say what it is she brings? Is it a new style of play, a game? No. Did she bring the money? Probably, but that has always been a thing we know would always come, right? That someone would come along at some point that would just increase money. People had more money to spend. She didn't really introduce money because that has already been introduced with Venus and Serena. They're willing to give them more money. Maybe that's just it. Roger Federer and Nadal and maybe to a certain extent Djokovic, they pull in a lot more money. For women's sport, that girl she doesn't even advocate women's sport unless she's servicing herself. Maria Sharapova never acts selflessly. It's always a selfish move. You ask her what's her favorite things, they're all her sponsorship. There is never any genuine moment. Everything is for performance sake. Her documentary, her book was all performance. You never get any. So I don't. So maybe people can dismiss me as a hater, but the thing that I would say at the very end, I got facts on my side. I'm not sure what you got. You got feelings because
Well, I mean, this is an important question though, because I think, does Maria Sharapova have a legacy outside of Serena? And I think you just said no.
I don't think so because I mean it's always because for people in on paper, it's not even on paper, but for the hype, right? That was the biggest match on the woman's side, right? Not even a match which is terms of quality as Serena, but well, Serena versus Kim or a Serena versus Azarenka, which might produce better quality matches, right? But it was a Serena and a Maria, and that I would say for racist reasons, because nothing on paper was supposed to say that was a rivalry, right? But it got all the trimmings and all the treat and all of the hype of a situation. And this is the thing: if Maria wanted to clear her name and show that she had, you know, the doping was just like for headache medicine or whatever nonsense she tried to spill, she had 3 years, 2 to 3 years to show us that. And she has shown nothing because she didn't leave the tour a hobbled animal. She left the tour when she was banned quarterfinals at the Australian Open. So she was playing good tennis, right? She didn't leave with an injury.
Well,
She,
not, you know what though? I think one of the biggest things that people are choosing to ignore is the fact that let's just, play devil's advocate for a moment. Let's say Maria Sharapova did have almost an abnormal EKG and almost some diabetes, right? And she was taking this as a preventative measure for her health. Let's say that those things that she has told us are true. It does not negate the fact that when you take an anti doping test, when you submit your sample, every single time you do that, you fill out a form and
Yep.
you say everything that you are putting into your body. And not one time over all these years, not one single time did she put that down. So somebody needs to flat out ask her, if you were taking this because you've got a heart that's going to collapse on you one day and your kidneys aren't going to work and your pancreas isn't going to work and your body's going to stop producing insulin and you're taking that to make sure that you're healthier in the long run, why are you leaving it off the form over and over and over again for years upon years upon years? That in itself is a broken rule. And that's the most basic thing that everyone is ignoring. Who cares why she did it? We all know why she did it, but honestly, who cares? You didn't put it on the form. You didn't do it. You were
Well,
hiding it intentionally. So why?
I think what's noteworthy, it's interesting. I don't know if you had a chance to peruse her Vanity Fair. It doesn't come up.
Of
Of
course
course
not.
not.
No, but listen, like, to me, that's a little bit like, it's a little bit gaslighting. Like, we all were here. We're all of the right age. We're all people who remember what happened. The only significant admission that Maria Sharapova makes in her piece about her goodbye is her 2008 shoulder surgery, which is the shoulder surgery that everything rests upon, right? That's why
Mm-hmm.
her serving is problematic from there on, and all of those things that is like central to how people talk about the challenges that she has. But it does not come up in her goodbye at all. And that just is so striking to me, on a fundamental level, because it's like it's dishonest about even just the span of your entire career.
Yep.
You don't even give us an opportunity for you to frame that doping moment again. She just chooses to
Ignore it.
ignore it entirely. And many, I think, ignored it
Exactly.
entirely, even in terms of the reflection of her
They
career.
allow it to go on. This is part of what I'm saying. The legacy of Maria Sharapova, to me, it's because she signifies all of those things where there is a pertinent issue, right? There is no way you can escape this thing because, as the players on tour have pointed, you now have to look back on her career. And literally, one of the interesting things that the the findings found was that every significant match that she won, she had it in her system because she was tested. She was using it at the Olympics. It was above the norm. And this was something she was taking every day to train. So even if this wasn't giving her any physical advantage, this was really giving her that psychological boost. And the fact that this was taken away from her, we see the results today. So to me, it can't get any clear cut that where when someone was doping and the effects of no longer doping, whether it was a physical effect or psychological effects. But and it's also crazy because there is no other sport where someone could have been doping like this and they come back to the sport with a whole bunch of fanfare and we pretend like it didn't exist. People pretend
Mm-hmm.
like it was you went on a vacation. It's almost, it becomes, we all sit there waiting for someone to say, well, this wasn't a vacation she went on, she was on a ban for 18 months. She was banned for 18 months, and that's a significant amount of time. 15 to 18 months, I think it was.
Well,
I,
I find it tremendous. I've just been watching. You know, I think it's important that, we've had, we've lost athletes recently, and people have asked the question about what's important to mention when you think about an athlete's legacy, right? And I think it's really striking. Um, it's been striking to think through. Yeah, you have to mention the ups and downs of the athlete's career so that you can have a real sense of the full journey and the meaning of the various moments, right? You have to place everything in context. And so it's been really fascinating and eye-opening, to be honest, to watch us talk about Maria Sharapova from the tennis establishment side, without mentioning her doping in a meaningful way. And if you mention it, then you are characterized as fake news or a hater or all of these like really
Or
sort of
Serena
like
Stan.
or Stan or
Mhm.
any of those kinds of things, which is like obviously weird because not everybody knows should remember that I was definitely I mean I was a Maria Sharapova fan. Listen, I'm a fan, but there are only a few people that I'm a fan in the sense of like it defines some aspect of my character, I guess. But I was a Sharapova fan. I enjoyed her. So it's I think it was such a tremendous disservice the way tennis characterized her and continues to characterize her. And so and so it's unsurprising that the other players don't mention it. I
That's
mean,
what I was surprised
I
at.
mean,
They
I
all
think
got in on the shit too, right?
yeah, they
Because they're
also
like
decided to
hugging and
they
be like,
also
"Yeah,
decided to
Maria
like
is gone."
yeah, they also had to do the emperor had no clothes. Like no one gave a full-bodied kind of like retrospective of even like, you know what? I was a massive Maria Sharapova fan. She was inspiring to me as a player after the doping suspension. I had some pause in my own mind about blah blah blah, but at the end of the day I came around to Do you know what I mean? Like even
Or
that
at the very least, we all out here working our ass off, working really hard, and this chick showed up and stole so much from all of us for nearly a decade.
Well, I mean,
Mhm.
politically, no one's going to say that, right? Because the leadership from the top doesn't give them permission to do that. If they're not going to admit that she had an egregious out moment, then you're not going to, then you're just going to be the negative Nelly who says that. But I mean, I like I've said in other places, I think that the whole span of her career I mean, Reels, you said it best. It started immediately. So really, in some sense, her cleanest year is 2004 and everything that precedes it. And
Exactly.
um and that's tricky. And I think one of the ways that people defend it is like, listen, lots of people are taking things now that will eventually become illegal. But I think Janina's point cuts at the heart of everything, which is that then it will be listed on a paper.
You would have. If you thought there was no issue, you
Yeah.
would put it on a piece of paper. And for everyone who's talking about legal doping with TIU, it means the system has a
A means
procedure,
for that
a
to happen.
means for you to do what you want to be calling legal doping.
Which
And
is
she
true.
and
Yeah.
she didn't even take that option for
She didn't
10
even take that
fucking
option.
years. For 10
I
years.
mean, she didn't take
And
that option.
they told her this. Even when they said that they were testing it, and she got that email the year before, she didn't even put it down on a piece of paper. And they always knew she was doing it. And mind you, the whole of Russia was doing it too. So she was no exception here. Everyone else just got the memo. She thought this is why I knew she didn't miss the memo. She just thought she would have got away with it. But anyway, Janina got to go. And I know we had a segment put for Andreen telling us all about Dubai.
No, no, not at all.
But
I mean, but one
Andreen
more
is still
thing
really
though. One
huh?
more.
Okay.
Kimmy. Kimmy, welcome
Oh,
back, Kimmy Clijsters. We can't forget that she may not be here when we come back again. Who knows?
this is why I hire Andreen because she says the things that I don't want to say.
I'm gonna give you all 3 sentences to say your Kimmy moment. Kimmy's back. Janina, I'm starting with you. Reels, prepare yourself because I know you need to self edit.
For that, I'm gonna go first. I got
Listen,
nothing to say. I got nothing.
I honestly don't mind.
Uh-huh.
I'm not I never hated Kim. I never loved her. I actually enjoy her games. I felt like um I felt like she could have if she would have been here, stayed here, not left, come back, had a much bigger impact at the top of the tour than she already did. Um, that's not going to happen now. I mean, that's just science and time isn't on her side right now. I
Mm-hmm.
don't care. Good for you. Good for you for coming back. I wish you the best, but I don't really care.
Reels.
Look. I hope she lose every single match that she plays.
And that is why reels is called reels.
Look, you can't
Andreen.
you can't just be showing up to work when you feel like or when you think it's convenient and try to fuck and run the show. No, no, no. We put
Reels
our
wants you to
listen,
suffer through all of
mm-mm,
it.
listen to me. Too many people out here playing the journey woman, straggling around toad, taking all the hits of when they got low performance. For this girl to just show up as Johnny come lately for all the praise and accolade? No girl. And all these
Oh,
wild
God.
cards we giving out to her for free? Nope, nope. Give this shit to Taylor Townsend. Give it to these little girls who trying to make some coins. Okay? Give it to these young ladies out here trying to struggle. Kim must show up here and get first prize money, first round money, and not even play a qualifier. Fuck no. Bye, girl. Bye, girl. Fly, girl.
All right, Andreen,
Any
what are your
girl, any
thoughts?
girl
Oh
who lets
my
Kim beat
god.
them, who
I
gives
mean,
Kim the first W, is on my shit list forever. That includes you, Venus Williams.
you
Don't let it
know,
happen, girl. Don't let that happen.
you know, I'm one of those people that hates a long, protracted goodbye. And I don't like the tournament feeling like a plaything. So my thing about Kim is come back, but I do it the way everybody else is doing it. No wild cards. Get up in there, do the qualifying, do what you need to do, and get yourself in this. That's it. Because I think the wild card makes it easier and makes you believe that your game is at a level that it might not be. Do you know what I mean? You get up in there and you think like, and the other thing is, unfortunately, these wild cards are kind of a waste because she's losing early. And so at least maybe with a qualifying, you get to see her for a couple of rounds. So maybe a wild card into qualifying instead of like a wild card into the tournament directly. I would like to see more of that so that we can actually see what Kim is doing and Kim can actually probably get a better assessment of her game. It's a little bit like with Sharapova, who Sharapova was like getting these wild cards into fairly competitive matches too soon.
I
And
wish you'd
so,
have saved Luck as Maria then.
oh my God. I mean, for the people who enjoy Kim, I don't know I don't know if whatever she brought to the game is missing. I
Nope.
think mommy vibes, but I feel like there are lots of mommies on tour.
Too
So,
much, if you ask
um,
me. And we got daddies too. We could open up fresh.
listen, you can't be anti-parent. Stop yourself.
We could open a
Um,
daycare center somewhere around.
no. But yeah, I mean, it's either here nor there for me. But I would like her not to get so many wild cards. I'd like her to like actually perform a little bit out on those courts and let other people see what she's got and let other people have at her and let her build her game up that way. I think she's getting a
Thank you,
little bit
Conta, and thank you, Margarita. Ole, ole, ole,
Well,
lady.
actually, Kanta took that all the way, right? Kanta's like, this is renewed confidence. I guess I can get through this.
Like,
Anyway, that's it for me. That's it from us.
so
And
we will next episode when it comes out, whenever, sometime later on. Andreen, we will not forget that you went to Dubai and you saw
oh,
fees lost, and I know you're still reeling from that trauma,
oh,
but we're gonna just rip that
we
band-aid
can
off.
process Monfils' loss together and see what it means.
Exactly.
We'll see how he handles Indian Wells if he shows up. And then we can talk about it all. Thank you all for making it such a nice and quick and easy
And
check-in before Indian Wells.
yes, if there will be an Indian Wells, because
I think there will be. There's
Mhm.
too much invested for there not to be.
but you're
Take
not going this year, right?
I'm slated to be, but I'm probably going to abstain, I believe, because it's probably not good for my health if I'm just coming off of something. So
Yeah, stay home, girl.
Keep your
Like
ass at
Kim,
home, Andreen.
like Kim should be. Okay, Kim, take Andreen's advice. Stay
I
home.
might find my way in Indian Wells because I have a friend there, and I actually have to fly out of Indian Wells for an event, so that's kind of tricky, but we'll see. But I really don't want to do anything that's going to be damaging to myself, so we'll see how I do it.
Mm.
Alrighty then, folks. So Janine is gonna go off to be a mother since
Huh?
Andreen said that we can't be disrespectful to parents. So we are a parent-friendly podcast.
Mhm.
So thank you all for listening. This is podcast 171, and I will make sure that it goes up for on YouTube and the regular places. Good night, y'all.
Night.
a good day, a good morning, wherever you are. Bye.
Bye.